Hello, everyone. So nice to be with you. And it's so nice to be at San Francisco Dharma Center. And I'm so grateful to Pamela and to Noam and to Steven and all the whole team for doing all you do to make this space available to everyone. And I'm honored to be here. You know my name, right? You know, my name is Isa, and I'm a teacher. I think I'm a teacher. Oh, I have a whole bunch of plants tangled up in my thing. See? Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So sometimes it's nice to know who's teaching you. So I've been studying Buddhism for about 50 years. And I've been a teacher of Buddhism for about 22 years. And I've been studying shamanism for about 45 years and been teaching about that long. And I teach through the Foundation of the Sacred Stream, which is a school for consciousness studies in Berkeley, California. And I teach classes, you know, here we are at the intersection of Buddhism and shamanism, which is kind of where I hang out. I've developed a spiritual counseling process called depth hypnosis, which is a combination of shamanism and Buddhism and energy medicine and transpersonal psychology and hypnotherapy. And so my interest in this intersection is one of healing. That's what we're really looking at, is bringing together these two wisdom systems for healing. And I teach a class with Robert Thurman called Shamans and Siddhas, and there we're really comparing the two traditions in a particular way, and we're going to draw from some from that class. So there's quite a lot in common between these two wisdom systems, and there's, of course, differences. You find Buddhism, you know, being developed in northern India and spreading from there. But you find shamanism being developed in every indigenous culture that's ever been on the planet. And the interesting thing is that among all of the different shamanic cultures, there's differences in practice because they're on different parts of the earth, but there's a lot of similarity in practice in different shamanic traditions. And of course, whenever you have a situation where you find similarities that are, you know, kind of surprising, you have to look for the common denominator. And the common denominator, of course, is the earth. Shamanism is an earth-based wisdom system. And shamans are charged with understanding the unseen power of the earth and bringing that power to bear on human affairs. The interesting thing is that, you know, Buddha is also a big earth guy. Because remember, in front of, when he was under the Bodhi tree and Mara was coming at him with all of his terrifying illusions, he said, "You cannot defeat me because my power is the power of the earth," right? So right there, you have quite a lot of similarity. I'd like to explore those similarities more, looking at a couple of different points of view. But before I go any further, I just thought I need to do a little introduction before we open circle. I really like to open circle before I teach because it creates a container. So I'm going to say a phrase and you can say it after me. And what it does is it creates a container for the teaching. The sun is a circle.
The sun is a circle.
The moon is a circle.
The moon is a circle.
The earth is a circle.
The earth is a circle.
The drum is a circle.
The drum is a circle.
We are a circle within a circle.
We are a circle within a circle.
Thank you. So this evening, we're going to touch on different aspects of similarity and contrast between the two systems. And if you have any questions, I'll stop every once in a while. But I really like answering questions, so don't hesitate. I tend to teach better with questions. I'm left to my own devices, to do all this recording online. I'm like, where is it? Somebody ask me a question. So the piece that we're going to look at this evening is a psychology of wholeness, because both of these systems have wholeness at the heart of their of the experience, and they are in many ways designed to establish or reestablish wholeness. And I'd like to talk about that, how they each of them do that. So, of course, I think probably most of the people here are more familiar with Buddhist concepts. And of course, if you were with me at my talk that I gave about the Dharma of light, the got put in there, and I still don't know if I like the light or light. But when I taught that class, we talked about Buddha nature and the ground luminosity that exists at the heart of all phenomenon from a Buddhist perspective. And so when a person comes into Buddhist understanding, they come into an understanding of how they are creating especially when, people come in for all kinds of reasons into Buddhism. But generally speaking, people are looking for something that is going to help them reestablish a sense of wholeness. They may not be able to say that out loud, but they're looking for something that is going to help them have a break from samsara, basically. And there's a way in which Buddhism provides this beautiful framework for understanding the nature of suffering and offering a refuge from it. So I'd like to just review. I know you all know the Four Noble Truths, but let's just review them in relationship to, again, that Buddha nature that we're going to be focusing on. So with the Four Noble Truths, of course, you have what causes suffering. We got students. What causes suffering? Tell me. Craving.
Separation between self and other.
Uh-huh. Aversion. Ignorance. Right. Misunderstanding. Yeah. So we have, attachment, aversion, ignorance, or misunderstanding. And this is something that is called, when you have a bunch of activity happening based on aversions, attachments, and misunderstandings, you have something the Buddhists call samsara, right? And so this is a realm or an area of experience where everything that you're doing is creating consequences that you don't fully foresee or understand, and you keep feeling like the world is happening to you, but actually you are happening to the world, and you are creating problems for yourself, right? And that's, I think, why people do come to Buddhism, because they're trying to figure out, what am I doing that it does occur to people that they have some responsibility in creating their own realities, and so then they kind of stumble into the refuge field. And so, of course, the refuge field is the Buddha, and I love that concept of Buddha being the doctor, the Dharma being the medicine, and the Sangha being the nurses. I just love that. Bob is the one who taught me that first, but I don't think he was the first one to say it. but I think Buddha probably was. Where you have the Buddha, you have the teacher, you have the one who is going to bring this information to you about how you have been twisting away from your sense of wholeness and getting disconnected from yourself with your aversions and your attachments. And then you have the Dharma, the set of teachings that are going to offer you a way forward into greater understanding of yourself. And of course the Sangha, which is so important to have like-minded people when you are on a path of healing and moving toward wholeness. So the process of taking refuge is really an initiation. And it's not often described that way in Buddhist circles, but an initiation is something that you find much more in shamanic circles, the idea of initiation. And let's just talk about what an initiation actually is. An initiation is a process where you have an old set of forms falling away and a new set of forms coming into being. And so, for instance, when a place where you hear the idea of initiation, if you have any kind of exposure to like cultural anthropology kinds of ideas, you hear this idea of the initiations at puberty, right? And you have, in the modern culture, you have a very strong tradition among the Jewish tradition of lots of rituals around puberty. And the reason that there's all these rituals around puberty is because there's an initiation happening. The childhood is falling away and the adulthood is coming into form. And at that moment of initiation, there is a release of creative energy. And it's very easy to see that in the initiation of puberty. But that's true of any initiation, where you have when you're stepping out of an old way of being and coming into a new way of being. And what you're doing in Buddhism is you're stepping out of samsara, you're stepping out of this being trapped in this cyclic karma producing series of unpleasantness, and you are stepping into the refuge field, and you are changing your mind, you're changing your focus, you're becoming more aware of what you are and what you are doing and why you are doing it, and becoming much more intentionally engaged and really watching your cravings, watching your attachments, working to loosen them so that you can come into a greater sense of understanding about yourself and the world. And of course, within Buddhism, there's lots and lots of understandings that move from that. But I'd like to just focus on the initiation of the refuge field, because it is a moment where everything changes. And one of the important aspects of this initiation is the changing of one's mind, the changing of the focus of one's mind, and working with the mind in a different way. And this is the wonderful thing about Buddhism. It is a science of mind. And so one of the important things that helps us understand our minds better is, of course, shamatha meditation. And I thought we would work a little bit with shamatha meditation because we're at the Dharma Collective and we should meditate. But I'd like to do a little bit of shamatha meditation, walk you in, and then we'll see what happens. I may continue with the meditation. I may come out and talk a bit and go back in. So shamatha meditation, as many of you know, is a process of focusing inward with one pointed focus. And in this case, what we're focusing on is the breath. And we are doing this as sort of taking refuge away from our monkey mind, right? Like this thing, you should have done that, you should have done this, why did you wear that? Now you're gonna be this way and now they're gonna be that way, that thing? But I'm sure you don't know. But we're gonna get, in case it's somewhat familiar, that's what we're leaving behind, okay? So let's go ahead, I'll walk us in and go ahead and do shamatha meditation. Just kind of stepping out of samsara into the refuge field through this focus. Just letting yourself get settled, noticing all the places where the surface under you meets the different parts of your body. And as you do, just noticing where your breath is. Watching your breath move in and watching your breath move out. And if any thoughts should come into your mind, just let them pass through like clouds passing through the sky. And then just return to your breath. So just allowing yourself to shift the way that you're breathing. If you've been breathing through your mouth, breath through your nose. Been breathing through your nose, breath through your mouth. Just following your exhale out into the room, taking all the time that you need to feel the surface under you again. Just taking a moment to reflect on your experience and see if you can feel that moment where you're stepping out of samsara and into the refuge field. Having that initiation where you're leaving that old form behind and stepping in to this new way of being that has focus, alertness, attention, more relaxed awareness. And as you do, just noticing if you feel a creative potential arising, all the possibilities in coming to know your mind in a new way. And beginning that every time, that the path to knowing your mind better, every time you sit down and step into the peace of Shamata, the quietude of Shamata, which brings you into that refuge field. And a really important aspect of that refuge field is, as we mentioned, Buddha. And of course, you know that I'm sure many of you know the history of Buddha, the historic Buddha, a prince born in Nepal around 500 BC, and who spent many years developing and trying to understand the nature of the world and himself after he escaped the palace gates and found his way into samsara. Poor guy. No, it was a good thing. It's good for us. So there's the historic Buddha, of course, who, spent the 40 days and 40 nights under the Bodhi tree, vowing not to emerge from his meditation until he understood the nature of the world and the nature of himself, and then spent all those years teaching. So there's that Buddha. But there's, of course, Buddha, as you know, means awake, or awakened one, the awakened one. And what is the Buddha awakened to? The Buddha is awakened to the ground luminosity that's at the heart of everything. It's one of the many things. But this essential, clear light, which you find at the heart of the shamatha meditation, when you focus long enough and quietly enough, that ground luminosity begins to rise. And that Buddha, that luminosity is individuated within each one of us as what we know as Buddha nature. And that Buddha nature is that wholeness that is within us, that is connected to the ground luminosity, we call it in other terms the universal flow, to that sense of bliss, compassion, wisdom that is at the heart of the clear light or the ground luminosity experience. And I'd like to offer you this idea that your Buddha nature is as important as recognizing your own Buddha nature is as important as recognizing your own Buddha nature as your teacher is as important as recognizing Buddha as your teaching, as your teacher. It is the enlightened state that is your teacher. And that enlightened state exists within you. And I'd like to really emphasize this internal experience, because most, as you were saying, most of us have gotten disconnected from it. Usually because we've been chasing after something or avoiding something, or we came up with the wrong idea about something, right? But here we can return to this wholeness, and it is right here within us, and we can move into it and let it be our guide, let it be our teacher. Let our own Buddha nature be our teacher. And, you know, any initiation has you know, there are different words for it, but a leader or a master that guides the initiatory process. And in this case, the master or the teacher, of course, is Buddha, but also your own Buddha nature. And I'd like to just spend another few minutes meditating, going back into that state with Shamata, and then I'll try to help evoke the Buddha nature a little bit more for you. So just getting settled again. Noticing again the surface under you. And all the places where it meets the different parts of your body. And just allowing yourself to begin to find your breath. Watching it move in and watching it move out. And just beginning to notice the way in which your breath is almost like a bridge between your outer world and your inner world. And with each breath, just following your breath a bit further into your inner world. Into that place where everything that you've ever known or felt or sensed or dreamed or imagined is recorded. And as you come into this place, just allowing all of your inner senses to open widely. Your inner sense of taste, touch, and smell. Your inner sense of sight and hearing. And especially that sixth sense of just knowing. Allowing all of your inner senses to open widely as you continue to stay focused on your breath. And just moving in with each breath that you inhale, moving a bit further into your inner experience. Just allowing that open space of your attention to open your awareness to your inner world more and more deeply. And allow yourself to sense or feel or imagine that light, that clear light that exists at the heart of all things. And remembering the light can be experienced through all of your senses. Maybe a sound, you may experience it as a fragrance. It's a transparent vibrational field of clarity. That can be sensed through any of your senses. And just allowing yourself to welcome yourself to your Buddha nature. Feel that welcoming from your Buddha nature extending to you from deep within you. That place that has always known you. The place that has always held you. Sit with your Buddha nature, listening, smelling, feeling, sensing, hearing, and perhaps even seeing. And just allowing yourself to recognize yourself here within your Buddha nature. Recognize the teacher, that clarity and awareness. And wisdom. Compassion. All of the different aspects of this state that exists within you, within the ground luminosity of your Buddha nature. And when you're ready, just allowing yourself to come back to your breath. Just watching your breath move in and move out again. Taking all the time that you need to shift your focus as you breathe out. As you come back to the room. Take all the time that you need. maybe taking a minute to reflect on your experience, and just seeing if anyone has any comments or questions about where we've been.
Thank you very much. That was a very beautiful meditation. I really enjoyed the Buddha nature aspect of that. One thing I have been was thinking of during that I hadn't put together before is I've been thinking about the renunciation of samsara, and I guess I really enjoyed that it could kind of lead into this beautiful initiation and taking refuge, and it was a really great connection and insight, so thank you for that.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really appreciate the way that you offered that meditation, and the sense of bringing us to something that's already there, and just that way of walking in. I think sometimes, especially earlier, maybe when I was in my studying and practicing, I always had the sense that like this Buddha nature was like this impossible thing to find or experience, or it seemed like so mysterious, and I was struck by the way that you were kind of walking us in and really pointing to that direct experience, how it's really is just right there, and it can so easily, we can become so easily forget or not see or not notice, really. It's really just a simple noticing. And so the way that you structured that, it just really, I think, it just made that really apparent, and it was nice. Yeah.
I was noticing that there's a kind of a subtle distinction that I couldn't quite get a hold of about sort of thinking that I'm knowing something versus actually experiencing knowing something that sort of exists in a kind of a non-language sort of way, and it was challenging for me to kind of notice when I'm doing that thing that seems like, oh, there it is, right there, yeah, I got it, versus having a much quieter, sort of a fuller sense of some state that I can't quite describe other than, in a sort of a imagistic kind of way of water or pool or things that without distinctions, I guess. So I appreciate being walked in a way for me to kind of be able to notice that, oh, there's this other thing going on as well.
Yeah, and what I recommend, the wonderful thing, this is recorded, right? People can watch it later, right? I recommend doing the meditation again and do it, or you may not need it recorded, but you may remember it. But just watch that place where you're that place where you're moving between the conceptual and the non-conceptual, and just and give yourself more time in it, and just spend more time and just keep dropping into it as just give yourself a little bit more space and I think you'll learn a lot about that gap right there.
Could I ask you a question? You said, you said Shamata?
Shamata.
Could you explain a little
Shamata
bit?
is spelled several different ways in English. SHAMATA, And you find it in every Buddhist school, and it means quietude or quiescence. And the idea is to have that focus. When you have the focus on the breath initially, what you're doing there is you're giving your monkey mind a break, right? But your monkey mind kind of comes in a lot, so you have to keep coming back. But it's the basis. It's the basis for beginning to understand your mind in a new way. It's sort of like your welcome mat into the initiation of the refuge field. How I think about it. Yeah. Any questions online? No. No. Looks like someone's raising their hand.
Yeah. Thank you for that meditation. I was wondering how, when during shamatas we're focusing on our breath and kind of moving into that place of refuge, how you would recommend responding to or interacting with other insights we might be getting. Like during shamatha, should we be kind of deprioritizing any visions or things we hear or senses of knowing for the breath, or is there a way to kind of blend those together?
Well, so let me offer you a couple of ways of working with that. So when you're doing shamatha, you really are trying to settle your mind, and you really are going with one pointed focus, and you really are trying to just be with your breath. But shamatha is also like the baseline for vipassana meditation, insight meditation, right? It can, once you get your mind even, there's a lot of information that can come in. I would recommend, you can have two different types of meditation. Just stay with your breath. Just stay with your breath, only your breath in one meditation. And then if you find that you're getting and no matter what's coming in, just stay with your breath, stay with your breath, stay with your breath. That could be one kind of meditation. And then you can give yourself another kind of meditation where you're focusing on your breath. And then with the clarity that's coming with being on your breath, with your breath, you can kind of enter into a type of vipassana inquiry of like, oh, here's this thing that's arising, here's this insight. Let me follow that and let me see where it takes me. But that is important. And then you can also have another type of shamatha meditation where you're like, oh yeah, I didn't cook the vegetables for the potluck tomorrow. Oh God, the kids' books. I didn't get their books for the homework. So you can have that kind of meditation, shamatha meditation, and you just write it down. You just write the list down and come back to your breath, and then you can like let it fall away, right? But the truth is, it's a good thing you did that shamatha meditation because you totally forgot about those books, and you got to get them. So I think the important thing when you're doing a meditative practice is to be clear about what your intention is. What are you doing with this particular meditative moment? Like what's your intention? And have that clarity and stay with it. And that way that you have a structure to your meditative practice. You have a discipline to your meditative practice. So you're not just kind of, doing the kids list and then, getting, seeing God and then watching your breath, it's like you have a meditate, you have a little bit of discipline, strangely, I really like discipline, I know I don't seem like it, but I do, even though I've got plants stuck all over me, I do have a discipline, I swear. So, anyway, discipline is really helpful. Sometimes, let me just say a minute, because Sometimes when I've talked about discipline, some people go, discipline, punishment, you know, like, no, it's not that. Discipline, structure, discipline, support, discipline. Here's a trellis in which your spirit can grow, you know, right? So, okay, we're good here? Yeah? All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about shamanism. So you have an idea of this place of wholeness within this particular initiation. This is an initiation into wholeness. We're going to look at different initiations throughout. But so pretty clear, did I make my point? You got it. Okay. So now I want to move into shamanic practice. And of course, within shamanic practice, everything is about the earth. And I mean, there are many forms of shamanic practice that stray from that and go do naughty things like spell casting and things like that. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about shamanic practices that engage wholeness. And there are so many practices within shamanic work that are designed to actually weave the spirit into a state of wholeness. And the archetype or the teacher of this wholeness is the earth herself. And you know, when you think about the earth and you think about all of the different interdependencies that are happening within every natural process, and you see the way in which there's, unless humans have been around, there's no disconnection right between. And by the way, interdependence in Buddhism, just by the way, you know, the natural processes really demonstrate the interdependence of all things, right? And from a shamanic perspective, in any shamanic culture, it's understood that the natural forms around us, the lakes, the rivers, the trees, the birds, that they are the tip of the iceberg of something much bigger. The unseen power of nature is something that is what shamanic practice is all about understanding. And there's a lot of different ways to enter into this unseen world behind the natural forms. And you have many different forms of visionary experience. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm talking about that yet, I'm not talking about that yet. but there's many different forms of visionary experience that are designed to bring forward this unseen aspect of the natural world. Of course, you have the shamanic journey, wherein you're working with a repetitive sound to alter the drum. Got it right here. And usually it's a drum. And this is something that is, or it could be a rattle. And it is that repetitive nature of the sound that alters the state of awareness so that you can enter into this internal cosmography that exists behind all the forms of nature, and that it is described very similarly across many different shamanic cultures. And that cosmography is often referred to as a three-part world: the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world. And the upper world is that unseen world behind the sky. The middle world is where we are, and the unseen world is behind this, which is its own study. We studied that for a long time. And then the lower world, the world underneath the earth, and that unseen world behind those forms beneath the earth. And it is in this internal cosmography that a shamanic practitioner will enter into in order to establish relationships, personal relationships with guides in the form that take the form of nature. And I know we're going to wind up journeying here. I hadn't planned on it, but I know at some point we'll do a shamanic journey. I'll teach you that. If you're dying to know how to journey right now, there's an on-demand class at thesacredstream.org. But we will enter into that. Other ways of entering into this internal cosmography that shamans move across. Actually, the word shaman is a Mongolian word, a Tungus language word, which means he or she who knows. And what he or she knows is the connection between the unseen world and the seen world. Right? Shamans are always moving from the unseen into the seen, from the unseen into the seen. And they do this in order to bring the power of that unseen aspect of nature into the world of humans. So for instance, whenever you see, you may have seen a ceremony that a native or indigenous person might have done, with calling power, with the drum or with the voice, and perhaps offering my own offering right here, plant, offering something to the unseen world, to the spirits of the unseen world. And then through that whole ritual or that whole ceremony, evoking that power and making that power more palpable in the seen world. And this is to help focus people, to help people find, like for a particular ceremony, what a ceremony is an opening. Ideally, if the ceremony is done correctly, it is an opening. It's creating a pathway for that unseen power to emerge and to offer something of value to the people who are participating in the ceremony. And and you see that, you see that. I mean, you can see that in every orthodoxy. Even, I often tell a story. I'll just tell the story. It's not shamanic, it's Catholic. It's about ceremony though. And I for many years I worked at Laguna Honda as a hospice volunteer in the Zen Hospice Project. And I always wanted to be in charge of taking everyone to the cafeteria on a Tuesday afternoon for Mass. And this really sweet Irish priest would come and he would do a ceremony of the Mass. And I actually, even though I have this Italian name, I married a Italian American guy and didn't know what to do with the name when we parted ways, so I just kept it because my children have that name. But I'm not Catholic, and he wasn't particularly Catholic either. And I'd never been to a Catholic Mass before I was at Laguna Hospice. So I'm like, and so he pulls out his altar, and he's got this candle, and he's got this wine, and he's got these wafers, and he's like, this is the blood of Christ, and I'm like, oh. And this is the body of Christ. I'm going, oh. And everyone else has kind of gone, and the amazing thing about it is at Laguna Honda, it's the biggest hospital, convalescent hospital west of the Mississippi for indigent people. So you had people from every walk of life. You have the people from the Philippines, the people from Africa, the people from Italy, the people from all the places where wherever a missionary had been, there was someone represented in that population there. And they were all coming together, and the ceremony was bringing them together. It was a thing, they were all dying, and this was a thing that they knew that they could come back to, this ceremony. They knew this ceremony. They knew the call and response. Lord, be with you, be with thy spirit. Like I'm like, everybody knows this, like everybody's doing the call and response. And yet they were just doing the call and response. They were not, their minds were not being blown by the fact that this was the body of Christ and the blood of Christ. And I'm like, like here is Christ evoked in the room, and I'm like, this is so exciting, and if anybody had, but nobody was really tuned in there, and it was like, I felt like pinching him. But the ceremony had its own power because of the way that it was uniting people, and it was that power that it wasn't recognized. This transcendental power that was being evoked was emerging through the forms of the ceremony, but it wasn't necessarily being recognized as such, but it was being recognized as something that was bringing people together, creating goodness. And that is a very shamanic thing to do, creating ceremony to do that kind of process. And when you start tuning into the unseen world and the power in the unseen world, and you begin to understand what shamanic practitioners are actually doing when they're healing, which is to actually channel that power. When a shamanic practitioner is working, they're not really doing anything except getting their energy system into a place where they can tap into that universal power that's behind the forms of nature, right? That's what shamans are up to, right? So being connected with the power of the earth and really understanding the nature of the power of the earth and establishing relationships with what are called helping spirits is what shamanic practice is all about. So I wanted to read you some poetry that evokes that sense of connection with the earth. And this is by a wonderful man named Steven Charlston, who was the Bishop of Alaska, the Episcopal Bishop of Alaska, and a Lakota medicine man. So I really love reading his work because he's such a bridge. And I'm going to read you some poems that evoke that sense of oneness, that sense of wholeness that's at the heart of shamanic practice through the deep relationship with the earth. It was not my hand that sketched the deep valleys of the earth or shaped the jagged edges of the great mountain summit. I did not cast the embers of stars against the night sky or pour the waters of the sea onto the dry land. There is a mind far greater than mine at work, a will and a purpose exceeding what I could even dream. When life seems out of control, I go inside to remind myself of that fact. I stand in the midst of creation's wheel and watch in wonder the quiet majesty of its turning. We are in the care of a love without limit or definition, under the protection of a love that never looks away. Love of the earth. This one's called All My Relations. I stand within the circle of life. Above me, the open sky. Below me, the ground of love. In 4 directions, I recognize the compass that binds me to all living things. This is my spiritual gyroscope, the equilibrium of kinship. I walk in balance. I walk in beauty. I walk the seeker's way. I listen to the voice of my elders. I am family before I am me. I measure what I receive by what I give. This is the red road, ancient and profound, that leads to the Spirit's good medicine, to the camp of all my relations, the home of every tribe. And this is called our siblings. All my relatives, every living creature, every bird that flies, every fish that swims, every animal that walks the earth, they are all my relatives. In the great family of spirit, the spirals of kinship weave us all into relationship, mutual, caring, and connected. Since all that spirit does is done in love, and all that spirit created was created in love, there are no orphans left standing alone, for all are embraced by the compassion of a common creator. How well we treat our siblings is how we honor our Maker. And the circle. Last night beneath the moon, within the circle of many tribes, the drum sounding like a heartbeat. My family by my side, I knew what it meant to belong. This is my story. These are my companions, on a path walked by my ancestors of the same spirit. I pray that all who read these words will be blessed by belonging. May you belong to your own story. May you find your place by birth or adoption. May you know your ancestors, and may they know you. May you be embraced by family in the circle of those who know you best. Let's do one more. The spirits of creation. I looked up, and as if in a dream, I saw them, ancient spirits of the earth. I saw them come from the mesas, gliding on rain clouds above the desert, flashing lightning as they passed. I saw spirits from the forest, rising up to dance on the trees. I saw mountain spirits trailing snow-white capes of wind. And I saw the spirits of the sea, moving like a storm toward the land. The earth is not barren, but alive, filled with the spirits of life, the forces of nature around us, old powers from the time of beginning. The spirit is not constricted to temple walls, but roams the wild places, attended by the spirits of creation. We only have to look for them. So you get this, you get this sense of belonging to the earth, belonging to the power of the earth. And I think this is a really, one of the great joys I have in teaching shamanic practice is that I feel like I can help people find their way back to the earth. This is what shamanic practice can do. And there's nothing more joyful than feeling that connection with the earth. And so I'd like to do a meditation to help us with that connection. Just allowing yourself to get settled, noticing all the places where the surface under you meets the different parts of your body. And as you do, just noticing where your breath is. Watching your breath as you breathe in, watching your breath as you breathe out. And just allowing yourself with each breath once again to draw into your inner world, into that place where everything that you've ever known or felt or sensed or imagined is recorded. And as you come into this place, just allowing yourself to let all of your inner senses open widely. Your inner sense of taste, touch, and smell. Your inner sense of sight and hearing. And especially that sixth sense of just knowing. Allowing them all to open quite widely. As you begin to focus on a place, perhaps in nature, where you have felt comfortable and at peace. Letting all of your inner senses open as you begin to focus them on this place, perhaps in nature, where you have felt comfortable and at peace. And just allowing yourself to let your conscious mind with any worries or doubts just simply rest as you focus on a place, perhaps in nature, where you have felt comfortable and at peace. Allowing yourself to trust the impressions that you're receiving as you focus even more intently on this place, perhaps in nature, where you have felt comfortable and at peace. And just allowing yourself, as I count from 1 to 3, to find yourself in this place, perhaps in nature. 1, stepping out into it, noticing the particular odor of this place. Listening for any sounds. Noticing the quality of the light. And noticing if the air is still or if there's a breeze on your cheek. 2, just allowing yourself to deepen all of your senses, noticing any animals or plants, any bodies of water, any insects, noticing the sky, and 3, just allowing yourself now to become aware of what aspect of this place is drawing your attention most strongly. It may be the sound of a bird or the water, maybe the light of the moon or the sun, might be an animal or a plant. Just allowing yourself to begin to notice where your attention is being most strongly drawn. And just allowing yourself to focus on that aspect of this place. And it may be that the whole place is what's drawing your attention most strongly, and you can conceive of that as the spirit of this place, if you like. And just allowing yourself to draw closer to whatever is drawing your attention most, and just feeling the power that's held here within this aspect of this place, this animal or this body of water, or this light from the moon and the star, whatever's drawing you most strongly, just becoming aware of the power that this holds, the nature of it. You even have a kind of personality or power to it. Allowing yourself to let all of your inner senses open, help you understand the nature of what's drawing your attention most strongly. Just feeling this connection that you have through your awareness and your attention. Just feeling the way that your connection with this thing that's drawing your attention most strongly connects you with everything else around you. And feeling yourself held in that connection. And just feeling this connection on every level of your being, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And just knowing that you can bring that connection and this sense of connectedness back into your world, your everyday life. Just taking all the time that you need to rest here for a bit before returning. I'm going to count now from 3 to 1, and as I count, just letting your connection with this place, this aspect of this place, grow stronger and deeper with each number. And allowing yourself to follow the path back, taking exactly the same way back to the surface that you took to come here. Knowing that you can come back here at any time to rest and be in this sense of connectedness. 2, and knowing that you can bring this sense of connectedness with you, feeling it again on every level of your being, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And 1, just allowing yourself now to come back gently into the room, just feeling the surface under you again. And following your breath as you breathe out back into the room. Just take your time. Reflect on your experience. Anyone have any questions or comments about that experience?
Thank you. That was beautiful. I struggle with visualization. Sometimes it's very subtle for me. But I also struggle with like choosing a place. But I found a place. And it's a place where I've meditated up on Mount Tam. And the aspect that I focused on was the crisp, clean air that I always feel when I'm there. You know, it's like freshly minted air. It's just, and it was really. At first, I thought I maybe I should think of something more solid, but it so much connected me to everything that was there. It's just I've never felt air as life and energy that I'm sharing with everything else around me, you know, and everything is creating it and using it at the same time, and it's just, you know, beautiful. And I also feel like I breathed some of it into the room. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Noam, is there anyone online that wants to say anything?
Yeah, Gladys.
Thank you, Isa, for the practice. This morning I was doing a element practice, so I meditated in the morning. earth and water. So the practice I just did, it kind of surprising me, like naturally my mind settles in one of my experience in a summer in Big Sur. I was watching a meteor shower, and then the element which I got connected in the last meditation was the space and the air element. So it's like during today, like morning and evening, I kind of was nourished by multiple elements, and I'm really, really appreciative.
That's wonderful. That's another thing that shamanism and Buddhism share, and maybe we'll go into that. I don't know, there's so many places to go. The work with the elements, especially in Mahayana, Vajrayana Buddhism. The understanding the way in which the elements ground and generate power. You can come get that.
I had this experience with, as you were mentioning something in terms of imagine a place, and it feels like it came from within. And the place was the first time I'd seen the Atlantic Ocean, and which was Miami Beach. It was very like during the day, it was very overstimulated, over-commercialized, over-humanized, overpopulated. But I came back at night where I really couldn't see, but there was this call of the water. It was a different color, and I think a lot of people are afraid of dark waters, but it actually felt better. And I think with it being sea and with being natural, and I've always hated open pools, and I think the chlorine and the unnatural portion of it, but the seawater like held me, and I floated. And someone had mentioned it, and I laughed because they also felt the air, and there was this tropical, alive quality, and I'd never experienced that coming from a landlocked place. And it just literally like held me in the way like floating in the sea felt floating like in the air. It was in like it was such this balance and synchronicity, and just this like something opened in me that recognized something. And I feel like, as you said, it's been within me, and I can always go back to it. And that's just the beginning. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay. So you get a sense of wholeness, right? You get a sense of connectedness. And what you just described is very much like an initiation, isn't it? Right? Like you were just given this moment where your old way of knowing fell away.
For the first time.
We're gonna sing a song. I'll sing it, and I'll sing a phrase, and you sing after me. Beauty before me, beauty before me, beauty behind me, beauty behind me, beauty to my left side, beauty to my left side, beauty to my right side, beauty to my right side, beauty below me, beauty below me, beauty above me, beauty above me, beauty all around 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 me. Thank you, everyone. See you maybe next month.